I won the lottery, but when I told my family I was broke, they laughed in my face and called me pathetic. They had no idea I was holding millions in my bank account. My name is Jasmine, and what they didn't know was that I was about to turn their insults into the biggest regret of their lives. Before we continue, make sure to hit subscribe and share this story. You don't want to miss the twists that are coming. When I first asked my family for a small loan to cover rent, my sister Claire smirked and said, "Maybe if you weren't such a failure, you wouldn't be begging us." My uncle added, "You're just like your father, always broke, always asking for handouts." Their words stung, but I kept my mouth shut. They thought I was desperate. They thought I was weak. What they didn't know was that just days earlier, I had scratched a ticket that changed my life forever. But here's the twist. I didn't want them to know yet. I wanted to see who truly cared about me when I had nothing. Instead, I watched every single one of them mock me at that family dinner. My mother even whispered to my cousin, "She'll never amount to anything. She's the black sheep." What they didn't realize was that the very same night, I had already bought something. Something that would one day control their future. But I stayed quiet, pretending to be helpless, letting their cruel words pile up. And just when I thought their humiliation couldn't get any worse, my brother raised his glass and announced, "Here's to Jasmine, our family's biggest embarrassment." Everyone laughed, everyone but me, because in that moment, I decided exactly how I'd make them choke on their laughter. I sat there, smiling through the humiliation, even though my hands were trembling under the table. None of them knew that in my purse, I carried a folded piece of paper worth millions, a check from the lottery office with my name on it. But instead of revealing it, I leaned forward and asked calmly, "So, none of you can help me? Not even a little?" Claire leaned back in her chair, laughing. "Help? You? Jasmine, you can't even hold down a job. Why would anyone invest a single dollar in you?" My uncle nodded, adding, "You're a lost cause. If we keep giving you money, we'll all go broke." Their words cut deep, but every insult was fuel. I looked around the table, pretending to be hurt, and whispered, "Okay, I understand." Inside, though, I was making a list of every single person who betrayed me that night. The truth was, I had already started making quiet investments with my winnings. Real estate, stocks, even a small company no one in my family had ever heard of. I had lawyers drafting contracts, setting up businesses in my name. Every move I made was silent, hidden from their eyes. But here's where it gets darker. My family wasn't just mocking me, they were plotting. Later that night, I overheard my cousin Lily telling my mom, "If Jasmine ever comes into money, we'll make sure she doesn't keep it. We'll take it before she wastes it." My own family was already planning how to steal from me, without knowing I had already won. That's when I made my choice. I wasn't just going to reveal my success one day. I was going to make them depend on me without even realizing it. And when the truth came out, their entire world would collapse. But the first step of my plan? Letting them believe I was still powerless. And then, just as I was about to leave that dinner, my father said something that froze me in my tracks. "Don't expect me to walk you through life, Jasmine," my father said coldly, his voice slicing through the room. "You'll never achieve anything. You'll probably end up cleaning houses just to survive." The entire table burst into laughter again, their cruel voices echoing in my ears. I clenched my fists under the table, but instead of crying, I smiled. That smile confused them. It wasn't the reaction they expected. I stood up slowly, and with a calm voice I said, "Thank you for reminding me where I stand in this family." My mother rolled her eyes and muttered, "Finally, she accepts reality." They had no idea that reality was about to flip upside down. A week later, while they were busy gossiping about me, I quietly signed ownership papers for a downtown building. The same building where my uncle's company rented 2 entire floors. I didn't tell him. I didn't tell anyone. I just let the paperwork sit in my safe, knowing one day I'd use it. Meanwhile, I kept playing the role of the broke, struggling girl. My family ignored my calls, blocked my messages, and even excluded me from gatherings. I was invisible to them, but I was everywhere behind the scenes, buying shares, acquiring properties, expanding businesses. Every insult they threw at me became another dollar invested in my empire. Then came the shocking twist. My brother lost his job, my cousin's business collapsed, and my father's debts started piling up. One by one, they began to sink. And guess who they turned to for help? The very girl they once mocked. Me. When my brother called me late at night, his voice shaky, saying, "Jasmine, we really need some money, or we'll lose everything." I felt a rush of satisfaction. But I wasn't ready to reveal the truth yet. Not until the perfect moment. And that moment arrived sooner than I expected, at a family gathering where they thought they'd finally corner me again. But this time, I came prepared. The family gathering was supposed to be for my mother's birthday, but I knew better. It was a setup. They wanted to parade me again, to remind me of how useless I was. As I walked into the restaurant, I felt every eye on me. Claire smirked the second she saw me. "Well, look who decided to show up. Did you borrow money just to afford dinner?" Laughter rippled across the table. I didn't answer. Instead, I placed my phone face down on the table and sat quietly. My father raised his glass and said loudly, "To the daughter who never brings anything to the family but shame." Everyone clapped and laughed like it was the funniest joke in the world. But then the waiter walked in, carrying a special envelope. He handed it directly to me, and everyone went silent. "Ms. Jasmine, the manager asked me to give you this," he said politely. My family looked confused as I opened it. Inside were the latest documents, proof of my ownership of the very building where my uncle's business was hanging by a thread. I let the papers slide onto the table deliberately so everyone could see the bold letters. Property owner, Jasmine. Miller. My uncle's face drained of color. What is this?" he stammered. I leaned back, finally speaking. "It's the building your company rents. Starting next month, all payments come directly to me." The table went dead silent. Claire scoffed, trying to recover. "You expect us to believe this? You can't even pay your own bills." I smirked. "Bills? Funny you mention that, because the same stock you called worthless 3 years ago just tripled in value. Guess who bought half the shares back then?" One by one, their faces twisted in shock. My father's hand shook as he lowered his glass. For the first time in years, they weren't laughing. But I wasn't done. I had saved the biggest reveal for last, and it would destroy the little pride they had left. The silence around that dinner table was so heavy, I could hear my own heartbeat. For years, I had been their punching bag, the girl they laughed at, mocked, and humiliated. And now, for the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. But I wasn't going to stop with just the building or the stocks. No. I had saved the grand reveal for this very night. I pulled another envelope from my purse and placed it slowly on the table. Claire leaned forward, her smirk gone, her hands trembling just a little. My uncle tried to mask his panic with a fake laugh. "More papers? What are you trying to prove, Jasmine?" I didn't say a word. I just slid the papers across the table. My father grabbed them, his face pale as he read. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Finally, he muttered, This can't be real." It was real. Those papers confirmed my full ownership of a tech company that had just landed a government contract worth millions. The same company my cousin Lily had applied to for a job, and got rejected. I looked right at her and said softly, "Funny, isn't it? You mocked me for being jobless, yet now I'm the one signing paychecks." Her face turned red. My mother, who had always whispered that I was a failure, finally spoke, her voice shaky. "Jasmine, why didn't you tell us?" I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp. "Because I needed to see the truth. I needed to know who my family really was when they thought I had nothing. And now, I know." My brother buried his face in his hands. "We were wrong, Jasmine. Please, help us." I stood tall, staring at each of them. "Help you?" When I begged, you laughed. When I needed family, you treated me like trash. And now that I have what you don't, you expect my support? My father's voice shook. "But we're family." I gave a cold smile. Family isn't blood, it's loyalty. And tonight, I realize I never had a family at this table. The room went silent. For the first time, they were powerless, and I was the one holding all the cards. As I picked up my purse and headed for the door, I stopped and turned back one last time. "Oh, and one more thing. Starting tomorrow, your companies, your debts, your homes, you'll be dealing with me. Not as your daughter, not as your sister, not as your niece, but as the woman who owns everything you depend on. Consider this my revenge." And with that, I walked out, leaving them stunned, broken, and speechless. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the underdog anymore. I was the one in control, and it felt incredible.